Welcome everybody, this is Rafa, back with you with the Mystic Times. Very happy once again to be joined by all of you. And also very happy this time to be joined by a new friend. His name is Roland Achenjang, and we're going to have a great conversation about the purpose of remembering and what that means for all of us. What is it that we need to remember? What have we forgotten? And how can we do that? So first of all, Roland, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well too. I'm very happy. We were just having a small chat before we started. I guess we're both kind of nervous to meet somebody new with so little like background on who they are, where they're from. But this idea of remembering and that being part of our purpose, I think is what unites us. So I was telling Roland that one of my patrons shared or wrote a comment telling me to look into you and to ask you onto the show. So I just trusted completely, and I went, all right, cool. I'm going to write him. So I made a point of not researching you, so investigating you. I went to your website to kind of get a kind of an idea of who you were, but I didn't go any deep at all. So and you were just asking me like, for example, I asked you how to pronounce your last name, and you told me it's from Cameroon, from West Cameroon.
Yeah, from Cameroon in West Africa.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, from Cameroon. So, I had a friend in when I was studying. I studied a little bit of computer engineering, so IT. And there was this guy. His name. He was not from Cameroon. He was from what was this country? So he was from Africa as well. His name was Carlos Tassi. I remember it was so fun for me because he had like a Spanish name, but he was totally not from Uruguay. And where's this country? Well, there's probably many. They speak Portuguese. I'm trying to remember the name of the country, and I'm
I'm
blanking.
sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, I'm not much help either. I can't quite remember.
I'm blanking on
Yeah.
the name of this country. Okay, I'll look it up in a moment. So, and you
Okay.
were telling me that's where your last name comes from, but then you asked me to get kind of an idea of where I'm from, and you asked me, "Are you in Italy?" And I said
Yeah.
no, and I left with that cliffhanger. I said, "Okay, let's start recording." So
Yeah.
yeah, my last name is Italian. That's correct, but actually I'm in Uruguay, here in South America.
Okay.
Yeah,
Neat.
do you know about this place?
A little bit. I mean, I know I've never spoken to anybody there. So you're the first. This is
Cool.
really cool. And as far as going to South America, I mean, I've never been further than Costa Rica.
Oh,
So,
nice.
and yes, and that's really not even in South America. It's just as further south as I've been in the Americas is Costa Rica. So
Mm.
it's nice to connect with you. This is
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. We think of every country in from South America up to like Mexico in Central America. We think of all of that as South America because we share the Spanish language in most of the countries, and so that kind of uh, unites all of us, and we feel an affinity for everybody, even if they're not in technically in South America. And there's many people immigrating to Uruguay, especially like from Venezuela and from other countries. So the country here and the people are becoming even more open, because I think this wasn't a country with many immigrants, but in like in the last, I don't know, 15 or so years, there's a lot of instability in South America recently. So
Mm-hmm.
lots of people are finding Uruguay a nice place to come to start a new life or to create something new for themselves.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to get an influx of people that we've always felt united with, but who lived so far away, and now we get to experience some of their culture, and yeah, even though we all speak Spanish, there's so many different what you call this accents. No,
Yeah, it
Yeah,
could be
right.
accent or variations. Yeah,
Yeah,
accents.
different accents.
Yeah.
So sometimes you listen to people from like, yeah, maybe Costa Rica, or not so much Puerto Rico, sorry, or those more Caribbean places, and you listen to them speaking Spanish, and you're like, oh wow, what language is that?
Yeah, well, it's the same with English. Depending on where you're from, your accent's going to be different. How you pronounce words are
Yeah.
going to be different. Even from Cameroon speaking English, there it's totally different than what I'm sounding now.
Mm.
But I was going to say, with everything going on and people immigrating to Uruguay, where are they immigrating mostly from? Is it neighboring South American countries or somewhere else?
Yeah, I think the ones that I've noticed the most is from Venezuela, um,
Okay.
but from the accent, there's people that I'm sure they're from, yeah, from more like um, República Dominicana, Dominican Republic, and Puerto Rico. Those more, yeah, like I was saying, more like from warmer parts of the continent. Um, and yeah, especially the one that I'm noticing most is Venezuela. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. So I have to ask you this, coming from Uruguay, what is the most traditional Uruguayan dish that basically, if you go to any family, any Uruguayan family, it that's something that they cook, they enjoy eating?
Mm. um, so one of the most traditional foods here is something we call parrilla, which would be just a steak, let's say, which is cooked in a a traditional type of grill, you know, um, and it's kind of like a family kind of thing, you know. You get together in the weekends, and somebody is in charge of the food, and the rest of the family, they're just talking, and maybe it's they're preparing salads. So it would be basically a steak and salad. But I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat that. I used to when I wasn't a vegetarian.
Yeah.
But yeah, another very delicious one. We're about to, I don't know if it's winter yet, but we're starting to get very cold,
Mm-hmm.
and a dish for this period of the year is we call it guiso.
Guiso.
Yeah, basically it's like a stew with like it could be like lentils and vegetables, and so like a brown hot stew, lentils, or what's this called? Well,
Beans,
different
maybe.
beans. There we go. Different kinds of beans and stuff like that, with like onion and carrot. And my mouth's starting to water.
Yeah.
I actually
That's perfect.
have a soup ready that I made last night,
Ah,
which has some of the same ingredients. So I was just thinking of what I'm going to have for lunch later.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's very similar here, especially during the winter months, to eat something very hearty and warm, and soup is really a big one. And you being a vegetarian, right? It's going to be meatless, and you can put potatoes, maybe
Yeah.
carrots, and then lentils, different kinds of beans, celery, maybe.
Celery
Yeah,
is very good food. And
yeah.
you are in Cameroon right now?
No, I'm
No.
in the United States right now,
Oh,
in a
cool.
state called Kentucky.
Fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Kentucky
And
Fried Chicken. That's all I
actually,
know from
fun.
Kentucky. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the very first Kentucky Fried Chicken stores is only about 20 minutes away from where my parents live. It's in
Mm.
a small town in Kentucky, and it's really neat. It's almost set up like a museum. If you go there, there's a statue of
Mm.
Colonel Sanders, and it's definitely a different type of building than any new KFC that you would see right now, or the traditional way the KFCs are built.
Mm.
This is different. It's white on the outside, if I remember correctly, and then it's just built differently, but that's where the first KFC was. So yeah, Kentucky is known around the world for its fried chicken.
Yeah, and have
Yeah.
you? I don't know if you're into guitarists, but there's this guitarist called Buckethead, and his kind of his signature is that he has a nobody kind of knows what his face is like, or maybe they do, but he hides it, and he has a KFC bucket on his head. That's like his
Ah,
his
that's it.
character.
No, I'm not aware of him, but that's pretty
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a very interesting guitar player, very virtuoso and very unique in the way he plays. So now that we've talked about food, we've talked about
I gotta ask what
language.
I know.
Yeah,
I gotta ask you one more thing.
do it.
So you're Italian. How did you end up in Uruguay? Were you born there, or did you
Yeah.
move from Italy? Okay.
Yeah, I was born here. Actually, recently, or like last year, I started. We had lots of time for new habits and new endeavors because of the whole world situation, whatever. Let's not give any names or anything, just in case YouTube, I don't know if they like it so much. And I started looking into my family tree, especially this side, my father's side, because I knew that my ancestor had come here like in the 1800s. So I was looking into that, and it was very fun. His name was actually Innocenzo Martinelli. So he was like innocent. And he came, I think, escaping the war in Italy during that period. Italy has been very unstable for a very long time. There's been like revolutions and counter revolutions and kingdoms being, it was like Italy was many different kingdoms that were separated, and they kind of unified, but then they kind of don't. And I don't know, it's very confusing history, a very unstable place. So in one of those moments, he came here with his family. And then here he was a builder. He actually helped build one very famous building here called the Teatro Solis, so the Solis Theater, the Theater of the Sun, maybe we call it. And he actually made, it has, I'm gonna search for pictures in a moment and show you. It's got a sun in like on the top part of the building in the front, and he was one of the ones who made that particular part of the building. So yeah,
cool.
a very fun.
That is fun. Like,
yeah,
a fun journey into your past. Innocenzo. That's a cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Innocenzo. I gotta say
it actually
correctly,
makes me feel lots of compassion for him. You know, being a poor little innocent guy. He had to run away from the war and create a new life somewhere else. Yeah, it must have been extreme. You know, they took boats. You know, they had to come on or ships, actually on ships over to here. And then when he was in one of the times when he returned, he came back, and eventually one time he went back and died on the journey back on the ship. So a pretty interesting life journey for the guy.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Why did he keep going back?
I'm not sure. Maybe he had family, like parents or brothers or whatever left there, or maybe for business. I mean, he started working as a builder and joined forces with I think it was an architect from here. So they started building different. I think they also built a market, a very big market for the time. So I guess he was into that kind of stuff and making trades or whatever. I'm not sure what the exact reasons for going back, but it's funny that during that time, we had to find his birth certificate, and it's not like today, you know, everything's like typed on a computer or at least on a machine. This is like written in the church by whoever. I don't know if it's like the priest or the bishop or something like that. It's all written in handwriting, in cursive. And it's actually very hard to read because it's a kind of Italian mixed with Latin, and and sometimes like the numbers, instead of just writing the numbers and being practical, they would write them in words, but the words would be a mix of Italian and Latin, so you weren't exactly sure what the number of the day he was born was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very interesting kind of investigations.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's really nice. I'm glad that you're embarking on that journey, and I guess I would say remembering some of your, previous history. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
definitely.
sweet.
Yeah. It's it's been a very interesting journey for me. Mm, now that you mention it, yeah, getting to know all of this, because I kind of knew about him, but learning more starts to give more context to my own life. Understanding where I come from, what his profession or his vocation was. Yeah, and then seeing the descendants from him up until myself. It's a very fun project, to see yourself rather than just as one body, to expand a little bit, at least in the material plane, to see yourself as coming from other bodies that aren't here present right now, but like this, exactly like a tree, right? The
Mm-hmm.
branches branching off, and you going back up the trunk. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Once I was thinking about family trees, um, and thinking, how we always draw them like going up and branching off, just like a tree. But
Yeah,
I thought of them more like going down, like having, like, I don't know, Adam and Eve or whatever, and branching more like the roots than the branches. I
then
thought
the
it
branch.
was.
Ah, well, I mean, it really could be both, but uh, right, because most of the times when you're looking at that family tree, they don't have the roots that are actually holding the tree in place, connected to the earth, right? The roots are really important in not only grounding you, but in also having you go and explore for nutrients, etc., which I guess it really does help ground you. But you
Mm.
can look at it both ways, where you can start, if you wanted to start with a single seed, which is the all I am, and then it branches from there and goes whichever way. And then one other interesting thing is, with a tree, most of us are seeing it in either 2D or 3D. Okay,
Mm.
so we just see it either branching like up or down, but it's actually branching outwards. Like, if you can think of a sphere,
Yeah.
where it's starting here, and those branches are all going in multiple directions, and each one of a point of reference is also branching wherever it goes. So it's not just up or down, or X, Y, or even Z axis. It's really, think about it as a sphere. It can become kind of difficult to visualize or describe, but it's basically exploding every which way
Yeah.
outwards. It's one way to say it. It's just
Like a
outwards.
big bang, or yeah, I can even
Yeah.
imagine like the map, and the tree being like, and the branches or the roots being like in the different places around the map, and they kind of connect somewhere above. So yeah,
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
is where my mind went. Let me see. I wanna show you this thing. So, and your roots, you were saying, are
They're from Cameroon,
from
West
Cameroon,
Africa.
correct?
That's where all my ancestors were, as far back as I can remember. I know when I was born, I got to meet my great grandmother on my father's side
You were born in Cameroon?
in Cameroon, yes.
Cool.
And uh, and all my grandparents, all my great grandparents, all came from the small tribe called Fontem, Fontem, which is back in West Africa. Very rich traditional history. It's a really rich culture. There's a lot to it. We
Mm.
have our own unique native language. It's called Bangwa. Um, but farming was really the main way they survived, and everybody kind of had a little piece of land where they raised their family, farmed, ate, kept some animals, pigs, goats, chickens, that they would eventually just raise and then kill and eat. Um, Cooking, they would, just stuff straight from the farm, or if they went to the markets, a whole lot of different types of vegetables, cocoa yams, plantains, bananas, corn. Um, some people farmed coffee as well and exported that a little bit. But yeah, it's just a cool place. And then of course it's West Africa, so it's not developed at all. It's all dirt roads. Very it's very earthy is really the way to say it, right? It's just earthy. If there are any cement buildings, it's that's usually newer. Most buildings were built with mud. Like it's only recently and um with the I wouldn't say recently, but I would say more this would just be a guess. I'd say probably in more like the last 50 years where cement buildings were coming in. If not, a lot of the housing was mud housing. Like I remember my grandparents' house, the kitchen had some cement on the outside, but the actual building itself was made out of just earth, mud, right? So yeah, and then no plumbing, no village-wide plumbing or anything. It's basically an outhouse where you dig as deep as you can, and then that's where everybody would go use the bathroom. No showers, running water. These were things that were just now recently coming with the ability to create what you would call I think it's called a borehole, where you would dig down until you reach water. Then you would have a pump, fill that water right up, and you would have a tank, and the water would basically sit in the tank, and then you would take advantage of gravity to pull the water back down into your houses. So this is brand new technology that's being implemented in many of those places, which yeah, we didn't have. I didn't have growing up. We would go to the stream with buckets, carry water, come back, shower, boil water off, and try to clean it so that it was clean. So there were like certain streams where you knew you could drink the water from because it wasn't interrupted. It was kind of clean, just straight from the earth. Other streams where you would go do your laundry, you would carry water, heat it over a stove if you wanted to, and have some hot water to take a shower. Just, yes, it's a different way of life. It's really
and
very different.
And thank you for sharing all of that. And it's something that I think kind of contributes to the forgetting that we've had, particularly in the cultural level. We might get into the spiritual aspect as well, but like I'm actually, this one is off. I'm just remembering.
That's awesome. Way to remember. Yeah.
I'm just remembering I'm speaking over here. Sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
I looked at the thing and it was off, and I was thinking, oh, I'm not recording? No. No, I was saying that it's something that I think we've forgotten, this more earthy, this more traditional or simple way of living, in part because it's so hard, and sometimes the commodities, not the word, but yeah, the comforts of I don't know, of modern life, we're so used to them in the West that we think of that, and we think, not me particularly, but in general, culture seems to look at more traditional ways of living as being like less, how to call it, less or like more dangerous or difficult ways of living, you know, and we are so accustomed to the comforts of modern life that we've run away from our roots, from our origins, and in part that I think has fed into the forgetting.
Absolutely. Which is really interesting. So very regularly I like to meditate on the earth, right? I'll go to my backyard and stand on the grass, take my shoes off and meditate. And usually when I do that, I'll go through some sort of cleansing. It's really bizarre. I'll act as though I'm taking a shower where I'm just doing this energy cleanse throughout my body. And then every now and then, if there's a huge energetic release, I'll burp, right? I'll burp, and that's how I release. And this morning when I was meditating, right, I had a nice release and I felt very light. And I was thinking how more so in developed countries, we want to be comfortable, but it means that we end up carrying so much more energy than we need. And when I say energy, I just mean thoughts or desires or wishes, or we want a lot of things to be working very well just so that we're comfortable. So we want like a nice couch plus a nice blanket plus air conditioning, or maybe a heater if it's in the winter months. We want the electricity to be working, and then we all have to pay for all of that. So we have to go to work to generate energy to basically transfer it to all these other people that are creating things that we use for our own comfort. Now, what that ends up doing in a way is it adds the amount of energy that you're holding on to in order to be comfortable. Right? It's like you're carrying on way more baggage than you can, and it becomes energetically heavy for you. And if you're not managing all of those things well, then you end up getting frustrated, which can lead to disease, illness, sickness, etc. And then you're not as calm and relaxed as you can be. Now, in a place like West Africa, where I'm from, like my village, if I remember very well, you would get up by like chickens just making noise in the morning, like roosters making noise. That's your alarm clock. And life was just a lot slower. There was no rush to do anything that was major. I mean, you would go to the farm, carry your stuff, come back. It was heavy on your body, but you didn't have a lot of possessions that would stress you out. So you weren't worried about your car needing to get oil change. You weren't worried about gas prices going up or coming down. You weren't worried about the car breaking down. You didn't need like insurance. You know what I mean? So all these things, even though they quote unquote make you more comfortable, you could argue that it's the theories that it's supposed to make you more comfortable. But if you're not managing them very well, you end up being less comfortable in a way, Yeah. So um, it, it, what's neat is that it's a different way of life. So you can, you can experience this, or you can decide, oh, I need to minimize, get rid of a bunch of possessions, not worry too much about certain things, or just appreciate that there are people in the world who aren't living the way you are, and they're enjoying the Earth life experience too. Yeah.
Yeah, that is the paradox of modern life, I think, and mm, and that's why I think traveling is so important so as to experience different ways of living, even if you travel to another country that is quote unquote similar to your own, or if you go to somewhere that is more natural and more where you can be more in connection with nature, which is what I like the most. I try to, when I take vacations, to go somewhere to disconnect from all the mental noise that comes with the comforts of the city. That's for sure. But and at the same time, it's maybe less comfortable for the weak part of the mind, I guess. But it's how people lived, or at least closer to probably how people lived for ages, living a more simple life in connection with the earth, with the animals. It's like, okay, yeah, now you can go into a room and you automatically go to turn on the light, like it's a given, like it's so programmed into us that that's supposed to happen, that when you go somewhere where it's not like that, for a moment you're like, what's happening? There's no light here. How can there be no light? Light is, oh yeah, it's an invention that we made, somebody made recently. And I remember once I traveled to Brazil, and I lived in the Morros, which is like, how to call it, like, it's not mountains, it's not the word, but it's a place, a more natural place with with its own like a stream where they had this pipe taking water from the stream that goes down the side of this, let's call it mountain for now, the morro, and you would shower with that. You know, the pipe would go to the shower, it would go to the kitchen, and the kitchen was just like for wooden sticks with a a roof made of just a plastic bag, a giant. So it was very, very rural, and it was so much fun. I've always loved going back to live in more natural ways, because a part of me misses it. You know, a part of me feels can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just
Cool.
fine.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
And it said here I had an unstable connection to the internet, so and a part of my soul, you know, misses that. I know it. I just being here, and eventually, you know, I got this idea from a spiritual friend who's called Pan. He lives in Germany. He's a pretty interesting guy. I got this idea from him that not all our thoughts are our own, you know, and especially when we're living in the city, we are bombarded with, like you were saying, the energy of not just of our own thoughts and emotions, but the energy of all the thoughts and emotions that are floating around. And there's lots of feelings and thoughts of discomfort in the city, paradoxically again. You know, people are comfortable because they have a car that can get them to their job in 10 minutes, but do they like the job they're going to? And they're paying for those, I don't know, those shoes that they bought with a credit card that, I don't know, maybe they were like, this happened to me once. I bought some shoes that were half a size too small. And I would still use them because I was like, no, I'm gonna break them in and I'm gonna make them work for me. They're going to get bigger. It never happened, and they were all the time. They were like pressing on my fingers, and I was like, I'm going to beat this pair of shoes into submission, but they just didn't.
It never happened.
Yeah. So we're comfortable, like you're saying, but we are uncomfortable as well. And my point that I think I'm trying to make is that this is so much a mental thing, because we're uncomfortable, or we are running away from this stuff that we've forgotten. We're running away from what we think it's like, right? I mean, you were born, yeah, and lived for several years in a setting that kind of forced you to bring out the best of you to the surface, you know, because you either had to, you had to, and we're so comfortable that we have the choice of doing an effort or not. And if we want to there's these machines to, well, just to make coffee. You were talking about coffee.
Yeah.
I'm not much of a coffee drinker, but I know it's a complex process to get a cup of coffee. And but now here you just put this kind of plastic thing, and you press the thing, and
yeah,
and you have the coffee in 1 second. It's not it's probably not as tasty as if you were like for months planting the thing and harvesting and then just making the cup of coffee. Yeah, grinding it.
Yeah. I mean, everything you say is valid, right? But I let me see if I can say this as clearly as I intend to. What's unique about the planet that we're living on, this is part of what I remembered with my awakening experience, is that everything you can experience and everyone you can interact with, and every moment of life essentially is filled with an infinite amount of opportunity for you to label it as either a good thing or a bad thing. right? And that's where the mind comes into play, like you were talking about. So the mind is the one labeling things and deciding whether you like it or you don't like it. The funny thing is both or anything is the same. It's just that thing. You're the one deciding. So, we've spoken about how it's great if you live in a rural place because of how much more connected you are to the earth. And that's where we started. If you look at the past, where we did not have a lot of the technological advances that we have today and we can take advantage of. If you now take and look at all the advances in technology that we're experiencing and enjoying today, you can appreciate how much creativity it takes for those ideas to become physical reality that we can use. Like, just think about all the people who were sitting, maybe they were meditating, or maybe they weren't meditating, or maybe they were just driven by the passion that they did not want to suffer anymore. And so it led them to create some sort of level of comfort, either because they came about it, by visiting some other people, visiting different countries, or just talking with people and wondering, what if? What if life were different? What if we had electricity? What's this fire stuff? What if we used it to cook food? That kind of stuff. Same thing with you today, where at some point you decided to have conversations with people and record it. It's providing you a certain level of comfort. And before you started, you more than likely went through that same exercise. I've come across this type of information. I like talking to people about it. What if I recorded those conversations and put it out? And advancements in technology allow you to do it at a very efficient cost. And it's really fascinating if you think about it, how you can be in Uruguay and I'm here in America and we're talking with each other. We got microphones that sometimes work, sometimes don't work. And we can have a conversation, and then you have a platform where you can post it, YouTube. And you have Patreon, where people can actually exchange energy with you in the form of money to say, thank you. We value the work that you're doing. It's helping me remember who I am. And I think that it's great. And so in each one of those scenarios, whether you are living here or in Uruguay or in some part of the world where there's no access to advanced technology, the big thing to remember is that we're all doing exactly what the creator is trying to do in and of itself, like this one infinite creator. It wants to know itself. And it's basically asking, if I think I know myself today to be anything, you can throw any label. If I think I know myself today to be Roland, what does that mean? If I think I know myself today to be somebody who likes to live in a rural place where there's not that much electricity or there's not that much interruption, or the thoughts that I'm having are more than likely my own because I'm not in a bubble with so many other people and so many other thoughts. Well, okay, cool. What does that mean? What can you create in your environment, giving the tools that you have? And that's what we're all doing. And that's what the creator is doing. And just like the creator, we aren't ever really satisfied or content, right? There's always something to go after. There's always something more, even after you get to a level where you think, oh, I figured it out. Soon enough, you're going to be saying, oh, maybe I did it. There's more. What else could I figure out? And all of life throughout the entire universe here on planet Earth, if you believe or not believe, different cosmos, different galaxies, different planets, the fish in the sea, right? The wild animals in the Amazon rainforest, the people migrating to Uruguay. Like, all of us are doing that exact same thing. We're exploring. We're defining ourselves temporarily and then exploring. And it's that creativity that's showing up the way we are. I'm experiencing it now, and we're seeing, okay, yeah, that's one way to live life. And then you look at that and you think, if that's one way to live life, does it resonate with me? And then you either bite into it and use that to inspire the way you live your own life, or you say, no, that does not resonate with me. And then you don't bite into it. And whether you like it or not, it's also something you're using to create your own life, because you're saying, I don't want that, right? Like you've decided you don't want to eat meat, you're a vegetarian. So you know that you can live a life without eating meat because other people have done it. And also because, well, meat's available and you can choose not to eat it, right? So you're always making that choice, and we're all doing it. And everybody's like an artist painting this large mural, right? If you want to call the entire universe a mural, we're coming in and adding our own brush strokes. This is my painting. And yeah. So it's fun in a way. I like it.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, you brought up many things in my mind. First of all, so you call yourself Roland?
Roland, yes.
Cool, because I called you Roland just because I don't know. So it's nice to know how you prefer it. And then I love this. We can label any experience good or bad. And I remember coming back from the. I call it the jungle. It wasn't like jungle, very deep in the jungle, but it was kind of I don't know how you call it in English. It's the morro, so it's like a kind of not a very tall mountain, and it's lots of just trees and trees and trees and trees. So it's a jungle, and the climate is a very, very special kind of climate. And I remember coming back from there when we were like returning home. And going on the bus, on the highway, or the highway, and at a moment it fell on me, and I was, wow, somebody took the time, I mean, and the effort to, I don't know how, create, or first of all organize a whole group of people, and then to create the materials and put them here on the ground, so that we could get back into the city in a more easy way. And I was like, wow, we don't always appreciate the city enough. We're like, or at least I was at the time, it was like, oh yeah, we gotta get away from the city. The city is so horrible. All the stress and all the worries. Let's go to nature. And then I was coming back after having the experience of nature, and coming back and feeling, wow, I was like so thankful for the people that had created that highway. It was an amazing thing. You know how we can take things for granted, and like I was saying of the light switch, we take them for granted. The words don't suffice to explain it. We say, oh yeah, you take it for granted, and we don't really know what we mean until we don't have it. And then when we experience it like the first time, we are like children, and we're like, wow, so roads, this is a thing. Wow.
Roads is a thing. Yeah. I love that. That is so true. Even speaking, like, and I've been wanting to ask you this, so you speak Spanish, you speak English. Where did you learn English? I'm just curious.
Yeah, and I wanted to hear some of that language from Cameroon. I think you said it's called
Bangwa.
Bangwa. I want to hear some of that in a moment. And also, while we were waiting for to start this second part of the thing, I looked it up, and let me just check, because I forgot again. I think I lost it, but I think the country this friend of mine was from is Angola. So
Angola. Okay, sweet.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting for me because he was a very different, looking guy from the rest of the guys in the class, but his name was Carlos. And I was like, that's weird. And then I learned from him, no, we speak Portuguese, and it's like a very common name over there. That's so bizarre. At the same time, it's so cool, but the colonization of the world during the periods of discovering the Americas, and then it's humanity has such a weird history, and So
Yeah.
I lost my point, but the
Oh.
other thing, yeah, tell me, you remember it?
No,
Oh, the language.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
language. Yeah, we're talking about how sweet the language, how when you start to have those short moments of awareness, right, where you become appreciative of just the tiny things, which is actually a form of mindfulness teaching in Buddhism, right, where you everything you use, you basically sort of adore it in a way, like you're so grateful for it. So language is a good one, where the fact that I can have a thought and express it, and then you understand it, like that's a huge miracle to me. It's so fascinating. You were talking earlier about how you were trying to discover things of your ancestor, and the writing was a mix of different languages, and with English today or with even Spanish, you could not easily translate what they meant, because it was a mix of old Italian plus Latin. um, and if you think about how language has evolved over time, it's really mimicking the way technology is evolving, or the way you as a human are evolving. You're taking everything that started before, and you're sort of mixing it together, necessarily to create a soup, but you're adding parts and taking parts out and modifying it and adding different spices to it, and whatnot, and different, ingredients, and different vegetables, and then you come up with this now sort of collective soup, which is a language, English, for instance, that many people in the world can understand. That's fascinating, right? When you start to appreciate those kind of things, or the roads, how they came to be. You're driving on a bus with tires. all of that stuff, all of that stuff makes me really, really excited and appreciative. And then when you look at all of it and you think, huh, all of this is just the same thing experiencing itself in different ways. And that gets really into some deep types of conversations you can have too. But yeah, language is cool too.
Yeah, I think we are longing for those parts, for the good. I don't want to call them good, but let's just, for the sake of conversation, for the good parts of living more naturally. For the I think, for example, this phrase that's so funny, the throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So okay, now we don't have to make such physical effort and suffer so much to get a liter of water. But what I think we're longing for, that we've lost, is communion and community. And we are speaking, and we are understanding each other. But maybe I cannot have a similar type of conversation with any of my neighbors. So I'm using technology because physically close to me, there's not necessarily someone that whereas perhaps in a more, this could be also the case for people living in more natural conditions, not having somebody to talk about these topics, of course. But if we go back in time, probably there was, culturally, it was more accepted or more normal, to maybe have your elders. And so maybe you can talk with this, you can talk about this with somebody your own age, but probably if you went to the older people, they would have some wisdom to share about these topics. Whereas here, we just get the old people and we stick them in old people's homes because we don't want to see how they age and die. And we've lost contact with all of those beautiful things of original, let's say, human life.
Yeah, I mean, technology has definitely had, again, that dualistic effect on the human interaction. Like, now it's allowing you and I to have this conversation, which is great. One other thing you can think of, and this is going to be pushing back to you to self-reflect, where along the lines that the people around you may not be in a position to have the types of conversations that you and I are having. So if you think about it from a really expanded perspective, maybe they're not supposed to. And if you are very self-aware, there is something that you don't know, right? There's something that you don't know. And, there's something that you don't know that you don't even know. But I almost am willing to bet, actually guarantee, that your neighbor can provide you that value if you're willing to explore it. And this is for everybody, even for me too. Like, I don't talk with my neighbors that much because, they're quote unquote either older, or they have kids who are older than my kids, or they're busy with their own lives and everything. And I'm thinking, I want to have a spiritual conversation. They're not into that stuff. They may be into some, religion or something that is something that I might say, I don't need that anymore. In a way, that's limiting me. It's closing my perspective as well. Because if I really do go and engage with those people with an open mind, in the way that I want them to engage with me, to say, come see what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about makes more sense, right? Once you start working on self-awareness, you're going to see that basically you are becoming what you're saying other people should not be, right? Like, don't push people off, don't say, but you can go have a conversation, and I guarantee there's some value that can be exchanged. You can provide them with something new, and if you're open-minded, they'll provide you with something amazing too. That will always expand your consciousness. So depending on your current level of awareness, having that conversation will only expand it, because it'll show you another perspective. So yeah, in that sense, technology can kind of, it can expand your world in a limited form, if that makes sense, right? Because it'll expand your world. You're going to connect with many people who are thinking just like you are. So it's expanding your world in a limited way, which is not bad. It's just different, right? It's a unique way to live. But this, yeah, just something I thought it's important to share.
Yeah, thank you. I agree that it's this thing of I'm reticent to use the word God. You say creator. I like that. I'm reticent to use it, not for myself, because I know what I mean, more or less, but I don't know how it's going to reach the other person. But in any case, I just go ahead and I use it, and I expect the best. So this idea of seeing God in everything, and seeing God everywhere, I think that goes to the point you were making, like you say, oh, I want to have a spiritual conversation with my neighbor, and we have this kind of pre-made idea of what a spiritual conversation should be, and actually, I mean, if you see God in everything and God everywhere, whatever happens, it's going to be spiritual. Whatever your neighbor shares, if you have the eyes to see, the ears to listen, whatever they share, if you're open, like you're saying, it's actually God talking to you through the neighbor. So if you look at it that way, like, okay, I'm going to see what the universe has for me today, what synchronicities, what I can explore, where in what aspects of myself I can grow today. Okay, I'm reticent to speak to my neighbor. Okay, I'm gonna try to break through that barrier that is a self-imposed barrier of my own mind, and I'm gonna go talk. I like to do this. I'm very different from my neighbors, perhaps in my likes or my interests, but in the end we're not so different at all. So I like going and speaking, and for example, there's there's a dog here that she barks all day, and it's kind of annoying sometimes. And the neighbor, she's also annoyed by her dog barking all day, and she like doesn't know what to do about it. So it's like the dog has got both of us in the, she called her in the psychiatric ward, going crazy. And I like going and speaking with her and petting the dog and being friendly to the dog. because in the end it's just the dog is trying to, or dog is God backwards, like God is trying to say something through the dog to teach me something, to teach her something, and so far I don't know what it is.
You don't
And
know
so
what it
the alarm continues, hey, pay attention to something, I don't
yeah,
know
to
what
what
it
I'm
is.
saying. Yeah, we need to get Rosetta Stone for dogs, I
Oh
guess.
yeah, for God, Rosetta Stone
Yeah,
for synchronicity. Yeah.
yeah, Rosetta Stone for synchronicity. Yeah. I mean, Rafa, what can I call you Rafa, by the way?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. But what you say is absolutely true, Rafa. You know, is every experience once you have um the eyes to see and the ears to
Mm-hmm.
hear, which is what happened to me in 2018. Like before the awakening, I would look at things and say, that's not the creator, or that's not, uh, that's something outside of the creator, where I just looked at the creator as this amazing thing that created things. And then the things it created weren't it.
Mm.
Like they were separated. But after the awakening, um, I remember that that's part of the cosmic joke, essentially. And I fell for the joke. I fell for it, which we all have to fall for it if we're going to take up a human body. You all have to sort of forget that
Yeah,
the
if we're going
creator
to
is,
exist.
yeah, as a human. If you're going to exist as a human, you have to go through that veil of forgetting, where you don't quite remember that the creator is creating itself, essentially. And so once I was able to peek behind that veil, then I remembered, which is kind of the the my choice of word for this, because we all know it, right? Because we are the creator, we all know this, but we forget for a very beautiful reason. And in my book, Who and Why You Are, all you need to remember, right here, I have to send you a copy. Anyone who's watching
Oh,
will buy
please.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Send me a signed copy.
a signed
I would love
copy.
to read it. Yeah.
Shipping to Uruguay is gonna be expensive.
Ye-
I
Well,
I can
if it's not but here, look, this is another book that I would love to mention
oh,
later from,
Merchants of the Light. That's
yeah,
neat.
from Betty Kovacs. She's been a
Okay.
guest also. She's amazing. And no, she's fantastic. And check this out. Where is it? Yeah, here it is. She autographed and she sent me a copy of
Oh
this book
yeah.
and another one of hers that I haven't read yet. Look
Oh,
at this.
pretty neat.
This is
Yeah,
amazing.
that
You
is
know,
amazing. Yeah.
to create a podcast and have a conversation with somebody that you admire, and them sending no, that's incredible. And for some
Yeah.
reason, I'm getting the running out of time from Zoom again.
It's because you use the same link, so it thinks that you're still in a group meeting.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
What
Yeah,
the
you gotta
Zoom,
create it.
man? Yeah, okay.
Well, it's yeah, it's part of life.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, I can send you a copy as well, either audiobook as well, or a Kindle version, or if you want to autograph one. I'm in the I'm actually working on a new book too, so that's gonna be coming out soon.
cool.
But yeah, we forget. That's what I was talking about. We have to forget that we are
Mhm.
everything. And what that allows us to do is experience contrast very vividly. And so it allows us to look at everything else and say, that's not me. Right. So you only say that's me when you're looking in a mirror, when you're seeing a reflection of yourself. But then you won't say the mirror is you. You won't say, right, the light that's shining on your face to show you the mirror reflection is you. Say that's not you. But essentially, the mirror and the light and the reflection and the shadow is really all who you truly are. Um, and if you remember that, then you can appreciate every experience you have, every communication that you're exchanging with anybody or anything is actually, in fact, a spiritual experience. Like you cannot not have a spiritual experience. And I realize that that is a statement I'm making based off of my current remembering and my current awareness about who we are and why we are. Now, somebody's going to have a different one. Somebody's going to explain it different. They may not use the word spiritual, but in today's age, you kind of think of spiritual to be a little more transcendent than like a religion or something like that. You go, oh, it encompasses more. But even within the spiritual community, because different people have had different experiences, their definition of spiritual is gonna vary. It's not quite spiritual, but yeah. So that's the neat thing about the creator. It's experiencing itself. You can't go outside of it. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, the path into spirituality was from from studying like science and physics and math. For some reason, I like listening to teachers talking about quantum physics. It was like, oh, this is like what religions are talking about. For some reason, I was lucky enough to make that connection.
Oh, sweet.
And yeah, that's been so funny. And I wrote down here, you said, like, you only say that's me when you see a reflection of yourself. And now the next step to I think that we could take with that is seeing how everything is actually a reflection of ourselves. So that's why the dog is barking, and that's why I can have a nice conversation with the neighbor. It's because I am talking to myself, and that's what Betty's book is about. And hey, maybe we could like wrap up this hour. I'll do the thing with the link, and we can continue with in the second half. We can get into that. One of the ideas in her book is this part of the subconscious mind is it speaks in symbol. It speaks whereas the conscious mind speaks in this second language that was built out of the symbolic language, and which is just as useful and just as important, which is the rational language and all these words. But then again, we get to certain edges of different words which we don't know how to define in rational terms, and which okay, so God for you is this, for him it's that, spirituality for her it means this, and we get to those places, and that's where we start to get in contact with this I call it like this half of the world that we've forgotten and that we've lost touch with. So we can get into that. We can talk a little bit also about meditation and the role that meditation has in helping us get in touch with ourselves, remember who we are and why we are. So Roland Achenjang, sorry.
Yeah. Before we just leave, I want to share this article with you that I wrote a couple of years ago, I think just last year. But it has to do with the last point you made, which is that the rational mind is really designed to make you question rationality. It's to make you push beyond what's rational. Because once you get into the spiritual, you can't, like you said, use rational thinking, or you can't really use logic to describe it. And that's why you hear things in spirituality or even in religions like blind faith. You just need to have faith that it's going to work. The rational mind does not reconcile faith very well, right? It wants to be able to describe things and use science to explain things, and he wants to be able to replicate that stuff, right? Like, I want you to be able to do this experiment, and I want to be able to do this experiment, and we have the exact same results. That's really what science is based off. And it's great because it has led to some very amazing inventions that we're taking advantage of today. But at some point, if you follow logic, you're going to get to a point where you, at least in my experience, I got to a point where it just didn't make sense anymore. I can reconcile it. Now, after the awakening, it worked. It made sense. I was able to reconcile it. I'm glad you did with, your quantum physics and science and religion. And then you're like, oh, this connects. I had the awakening, and then I saw the connections, and I saw the value of science, and I saw the value of being limited by logic. And how having an expanded awareness makes you appreciate logic even more, because you know that you're kind of playing a game with something that's limited, and it can only take you so far. And then blind faith comes in, just trust and that allows you to then move forward. And then over time, logic, you can add more explanations to logic, but you can keep going, and keep going, and just keep going and just keep going. And if you're trying, that's backwards essentially, right? You can keep going backwards. But if you're moving forward, I mean, for you to really do anything, you have to have blind faith. Let's just say when you decided, I know we got 2 minutes here, when you decided to do this podcast, you didn't know how many people were going to be listening to. You didn't know you were going to connect with me. But there was just no amount of logic would have said, this is when you will connect with Roland, and then have to have 3 different Zoom sessions to record this conversation. But you just went with it. And then that blind faith has led to this moment, right? Where logic could not have ever predicted it. So it's an interesting article. Kind of check it out.
Yeah, thank you, Roland. I'm gonna share that in the description below. Please,
Okay.
in these last couple of minutes, share with everybody your website or any links that you'd like for people to connect with you. And of course, I'll also link to them in the description.
Sure. My website is my first name, last name.com, rolandachenjang.com. And I also have a YouTube show, but we'll talk about that. You can check it out. You can check the book out. I'm doing a bunch of stuff just like Rafa. It's neat. It's neat.
Awesome. Thank you. And you can find me. You can message me on Instagram. I'll put the link down there. It's @manrafa, and you're all welcome to join the Patreon as well to help support the show. If you like all these kinds of conversations, please also support Roland. And yeah, we'll be back on the second half with some very juicy conversations. Thank you, everybody.